If there's been one consistency throughout this whole pandemic, it's that very little has remained consistent.
So you have me engaged.
I'm in there. I'm hooking you. That's what my job is, especially when it comes to the news. That's why we bring in the one and only Dr. Payal Kohli, who I love. She joins us live with the facts. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
She told me, don't feel guilty. She texted me, don't go home, and I think she's right. I appreciate that. I love you, Dr. Kohli, too much. All right,
You're protecting your mom, Tori. You're doing the right thing. So
I really do appreciate
I'm with you.
that.
I think America's struggling with the same
I know.
question.
It's very relatable,
Yes.
isn't it? And I appreciate you saying that. All right, we want you to weigh in on this. The recent news out of the White House. A senior official has praised the concept of herd immunity. And I'm saying it like H-E-R-D, guys, like herd of a group of animals, as a way out of the pandemic. But just this morning, Dr. Fauci had some very strong words about it. Let's take a look.
If you let infections rip, as it were, and say, let everybody get infected that's going to be able to be getting infected, and then we'll have herd immunity, quite frankly, that is nonsense.
Nonsense. Doc, can you remind us what that is, and do you think it's also nonsense?
So Tori, herd immunity is the concept that if enough people in the herd or the community have immunity to the virus, you can actually slow or stop the spread of the virus, and you can protect those in the herd that may not have immunity. So there's two ways to achieve herd immunity. One is through the vaccine, which is really the preferable way, and the other is what the White House administration is suggesting, which is to let it rip and just have people get infected and recover. And in addition to Dr. Fauci's nonsense, I would add that I think it's pure and simple insanity.
Wow.
The idea of using herd immunity as a public health strategy is ridiculous. It's going to result in essentially millions and millions of people dying unnecessarily. It's going to lead to the fact that a lot of people will have long-term complications. And as we've seen with reinfection occurring, it may not even last. So, you know, people are getting reinfected now for the second time. So even if you get the infection once, there's no guarantee that you'll have immunity. And to have herd immunity, you need to have sustained immunity.
Wow. Well, she didn't hold back on that.
No, and I like that. I think you kind of answered my question I'm about to ask here, Doctor. It says some health experts have called herd immunity another term for mass murder. I don't even like that term. You kind of answered my question. I have a personal question that I want to ask you, Dr. Kohli. Were you listening in when we talked about, I think it was Dr. Fauci, when he said the small gatherings are spreading this virus the most?
It's absolutely right, Jeff. Well, so what he means by that is that earlier in the pandemic, we were talking about the protests, the rallies, the large public gatherings that we thought were really driving the spread. But as you've seen all over the country, even here in Colorado for us, the numbers are going up like crazy. We had 1,000 new cases here in Colorado on Tuesday. Wow. We're having 50,000 new cases a day in the country. And that's really being driven by those small gatherings because people have been lulled into this sense of complacency that if it's only 2 or 3 families or 2 or 3 people getting together, it's okay. But what they're not realizing is that you have to be going steady with those 2 or 3 families. So you can't have 2 or 3 different families every weekend because by definition, that's almost like getting all those people together in one big gathering when you're getting them together, you know, every weekend, even if they're in smaller gatherings. So I think that's concerning because Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming, people want to get together, they want to celebrate with their families, but it's really these small gatherings that are now fueling the numbers that we're seeing in the country.
Scary. And they're happening so much more often than those big gatherings, too. We also just learned about the first case of reinfection in North America. People have been asking me about this all day. What impact does this have on herd immunity?
You know, you guys, this is behaving more and more like the common cold. So if the immunity doesn't sustain, you know, herd immunity is not going to be possible. So we have to think about that because if we can catch it multiple times, then herd immunity, whether it's through vaccine or through natural infection, is going to be much harder to achieve.
Wow. Wow, wow. Reinfection, not something I wanted to hear about. Thank you so much for at least easing my mind on what to do and letting everybody know the actual facts. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Doc. We'll be right back.